Ladies and gentlemen, let's dive into the shift from linear TV to connected TV. In this session, the speakers aim to decipher the complex shift from linear to CTV for different generations, from baby boomers to Gen Z and everything in between. I would like to welcome our moderator for this session. Please put your hands together for Mr. Ashish Dugal, CEO of Poesis Digital. Welcome, sir. And also our panelists. Please welcome Mr. Parth Desai, Head Digital Marketing Pidilite. Oh my God, the claps have to be louder. And also welcome Mr. Salil Shankar, Regional Head South Asia Lemma. Mr. Chinmay Chandatre, General Manager Madison Digital. Mr. Prasad Pimple, Executive Vice President and Head of Digital Business Unit at Kotak Life. Jahid Ahmad, Senior Vice President and Head of Digital Acquisition, Websites, Social Media and Content Marketing at HDFC Bank. So once again, let's give a big round of applause to our panelists and our moderator, and over to you.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction. Good morning, everyone, once again. Uh, Trust me, this is a power-packed panel, and this house should have been full so far. But nevertheless, I think Mumbai traffic is keeping a lot of people away. But we'll try to make the best of our time here, and we'll try to make it power-packed for you guys as well. In today's discussion, I think we have a perfect combination of a panel here. We have people representing the brands, some of the biggest brands in the country we have seen. We have representation from the technology partners. We have representation from the agency guys, both from media and creative, including myself. So there are a couple of queries and questions which come to our mind these days about the evolving platform and in the world of advertising. Every day the things are changing. It's dynamic, and the more and more we catch up around this format, I think we'll see the scenarios are changing, the formats are changing. It is ever evolving. One of the biggest concern, in fact, which everyone sees is whenever there's a new media which begins or any new product which comes in the market. Similarly, connected TV is something very new in the market right now, and it is ever evolving, and we'll see that it will evolve over the period of time. I think the kind of questions we are going to ask to our panel today is going to be thought-provoking and going to put some light on these aspects, and we'll try to come up with what is the way forward moving in this direction, especially in the connected TV world. So today's point is more about finding that connect with the audiences which we have here. Now, my first question is actually to Salil, since he comes from the technology background. So first of all, it's more about the dynamic shift from the linear TV to the connected TV. So Salil, first of all, the question to you is that are you seeing how are you seeing those dynamics changing, and do you think this is really scaling up for you, and do you think how is that competing with the linear TV or so on and so forth?
Yeah, thank you, Ashish. Yes, definitely, it's an interesting shift which we are seeing in the industry right now. It has been quite, different journey. TV as a medium overall as together. From sight to sound to idiot box to smart device,
Yeah.
And with the increase of our internet penetration in India because of the 5G rollout and the OTT as in demand, there's a if you talk about the smart TV devices, it is actually helping, like 10 out of 9 smart TVs are
Yeah.
getting sold in India as market, and that's where the penetration has come in from the CTV growth from linear to digital. And having said that, with this increase in penetration, the TV is providing an opportunity to an advertisers how they can actually reach each household, considering how you can make that as an addressable medium from an advertiser perspective. And more interesting part of this connected TV from linear to digital shift is like how you can actually use this platform as to enhance your capability on adding more layer to the audiences which was never been able to track on the traditional
Very
TV.
interesting point.
And like there are OEMs, ACR technology, which helps you to define, and especially when there's an integration, because a lot of advertiser, a lot of brands, digital folks, they use first party, second party, third party data. And this type of technology actually enhance you to marry with those data and to analyze what sort of audiences you want to really target or to have that measurement as in place, which was never before in the traditional media.
Interesting point, yeah. So, Salil, picking up from one of the point which you rightly mentioned, and where most of us will be interested, is the layers which are available to target. So, picking up from that point, Parth, do you think that considering your business, which you represent, Pidilite, it has got a vast variety of products. How do you see that the changing consumption patterns, especially from the baby boomers to the Gen Z and the millennials and all? How do you think this is helping you? Are you trying connected TVs, and are you able to find that connect with the help of connected TVs over here?
Sure. I think, first of all, thanks a lot for Agency Reporter, I think, for organizing this session with these panel members. And yeah, I think talking about the question that you asked, I think the acceptance of connected TV, and for that matter, technology is very, very different across different, age classes.
True.
I think interesting point that you will see happening is, for example, if you see any child today, and even if they go to a normal TV, you'll see them, doing this with
Yeah,
the TV
exactly,
screen.
exactly.
Yeah, because I think newer age people are more used to feedback from any screen that they get to see, and that's a behavior that is getting driven. One thing that I have been kind of looking forward to is mainly baby boomers and some of these younger generations. What's happening is they are born into internet. I think
That's
all
true.
of us weren't born into internet, we've learned internet.
We've learned
Yeah,
internet.
so we've kind of moved from maybe radios that were there in our house to TVs to probably now. So we've really seen a media, whole media around us change very fast. But we still kind of consume them not as natives. We've really learned them, right? What is happening right now is people who are probably just getting into their first jobs, or people who are now 18 or 20, these are people who were born into technology. And how they are going to consume media is going to be drastically different as compared to how we are consuming media. That, for example, in the next 5 to 10 years, we are really going to see a huge shift in how our media, landscape is looking like, because these people can't live without feedback. These people can't live without, getting asynchronous or non-linear consumption. They really need to have what they need to have at that point, right? They're not used to waiting at 8 o'clock because a certain platform is going to show a certain, whatever ad or whatever the program is. So I think that is really driving that shift. However, what is happening interestingly is CTV is also becoming a filter for premiumness. So that is also another filter that we are able to use.
Okay.
That yes, for TGs which are a bit older in a segment, if I go in a certain city and I target CTVs, I know that I'm going to also get to some premium segments, because that is where consumption is more. Yes, a lot of smart TVs are getting sold. However, smart TVs are still being used on both, either Amazon stakes or some kind of asynchronous technology, or they are also being used on usual linear boxes. What's happening is the usage is actually getting driven a lot more at, premium households. So if you go, to the A's and A pluses of your NCCS, where people have a lot more, appliances that they have purchased, those people are more, prone to use a lot more of smart TVs. So that is also another behavior that we are able to see, that yes, of course, smart TVs are, getting accepted a lot more in younger households, but it is also a good filter to really get to premium audiences in different cities.
So picking up from your point, a very interesting point which you made, that we were not born into this era. I mean, internet, we learned it, right? These days the kids are born into this, and they first thing these days what they're doing is they're picking up our phones. At the age of 3, these guys know what kind of rhymes they want to see, and then our phones are actually flooded. They apparently the platforms thinking that we are kids actually watching these kind of rhymes. It's very interesting fact. But having said that, what do you think? Considering your business, you serve a variety of consumers, right? What about the acceptance from the baby boomers? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
See, I'll tell you what, although CTV is becoming big, some of the baby boomers are actually focused on their own screens a lot more. So while you manage CTV, as you go to as younger TGs as you can, going to just one screen is not going to be enough. And it's
True,
becoming
true.
harder to create brands for younger TGs because they are very, very fragmented. For example, do I go on Discord, or do I go on YouTube, or do I go on what? I mean, it's not just platform, but because the consumption is so, and I remember this very well because we keep on discussing this over and over again at Pidilite. We talk about, some of those old Fevicol ads, which everybody
Exactly,
even
exactly.
remembers today, because they were not run with a huge media budget. They were just
No.
run at the right spots on probably the right cricketing platforms where, everybody was watching TV at that time. The whole of the country was just watching that one program. The challenge right now is, even if you talk about CTV or even if you talk about anything, at any point, you're not going to have everybody watching any one common program. I mean, probably cricket is driving something close to that. But even there, you have a lot more people looking into basketball now or football now. And people kind of look up to saying, oh, I don't look at really cricket. That's my differentiation in front of my friends or something like that. So in baby boomers, I think believing in what you really like is becoming very, very strong. And that's driving consumption on very, very different platforms very differently. So I think that's why understanding your TG, and for example, some of the gaming companies have had the hardest of this, and they've really become smart at targeting some of these other people where you might not really need to go to some of the OTTs. You might need to go to some gaming channels, or you might need to go completely to a different channel, which might not be just video consumption, which is one-sided communication, right? You might need a feedback-driven channel where maybe games, for all you know. So I think that way it's a very complex answer. But what I'm really trying to get at is it'll have to be driven as you go to younger TGs. It'll have to be driven by a lot more channels. It'll have to be driven by a lot more IMC rather than just one specific channel.
But do you think that the younger generation is really pushing the baby boomers to accept the entire change in this scenario?
I think that's happening in general, right? I think, for example, I remember my sister telling me that she started consuming a lot more of children's videos because her child kind of keeps on figuring out a lot more. So I think acceptance of technology is happening all across age cuts at different levels because of different behaviors. But yeah, I think that's an overall paradigm shift that's certainly happening.
Yeah, actually, that creates a good problem to have for our partners, our technology partners, and the agencies to work on. How can we further create more cutting-edge technology and make it more impactful for the advertisers and the brands to focus on? Now, considering that, Chinmay, you come from an agency background, especially from the media front. So my question to you is that how does a GenX navigates between the traditional TV and the CTV, and what insights can be drawn from the viewing patterns?
So it's a very interesting, I would say, category or generation that we're talking about, because this, I feel, is the most ignored generation from a marketing lens. Everybody keeps on talking about Gen Zs and Millennials, but Gen X actually is the, I would say, generation which has seen everything, all evolutions. This is the
True.
generation that has seen. Now, I was just looking, I was talking to a couple of partners from the DTH service providers and from the leading video platforms, and were very interesting information that was passed on. DTH guys said that almost 50% plus subscriptions of them happened between the age of 40 plus, which is the category that we are talking about. Which emphasis or which says that definitely this generation is watching a lot of traditional TV. But then we have a leading YouTube, or I would say video platform, where we get real time data. And I was just looking at this data for Bombay as a region. Bombay has a population of close to 21 million. Internet addressable real time at any given point in time is close to 15 to 16 million. When I put a layer of connected TV on it, the addressable audience on connected TV is 9.5 million. And when I
Wow.
put a layer of 44 and above, which is the Gen X category that we are talking, the addressable universe was close to 2.5 million. So definitely on both the sides, there is a lot of data consumption that is happening. And there's a term called cord stackers. We talk about cord cutters, cord shavers, but these generation is called cord stackers, which actually are using both the services. I would want to say that this generation watches their news and daily soaps on a Tata Sky, and most probably live sports and video on the streaming platforms. And from an agency and advertiser perspective, being from a digital lens, I always struggled to make a point when this is the category or generation that is sitting in the boardroom asking me digital पे ad नहीं दिखता है. With connected TV coming into space, everybody is now watching ads on connected TV. So I don't have to go and tell that, yes, this is a digital ad. It's an ad on connected TV, which is enabled by digital. So definitely there's a lot of consumption that is happening, but it's a dual consumption. I would say 50-50 kind of a scenario where they have choices of their series or choices of their content that they consume on the traditional platform, whereas they switch on to the streaming platforms for a lot of new age content.
So
Just to add one quick point here, I think, funny that you mentioned that, boardrooms kind of ask about ads. The hack for that, erstwhile marketers used to use is to take a banner in front of your boss's house. I think we need to figure out the answer for that in digital yet.
Right. But again, adding
You have the digital outdoor hoardings in the societies. So people, what they do is they map the apartments, they map the localities where the outdoor hoardings are there, and then Lema does the trick rest of all. So that's
So
what's
now,
happening
now we
nowadays.
don't have to use those hacks because definitely people sitting in the boardroom has connected TVs. 8 out of 10 times they'll agree that they've seen a ad on connected TV, and the beauty of it is because audience size is limited, you can run at a higher frequency so that
Yep.
that ads are visible to your heads as well as to a lot of premium audience that's sitting out there.
But honest question, is it really bothering showing ads so many times? It's
Not-
good to see that
not
kind of filtration,
necessary.
by the way. Amazing. I never knew about these numbers and layers which you can do that. Thanks for highlighting that. But is it like creating a lot of chaos for the people who are watching those ads repetitively? Don't you think so?
See, honestly, what happens is in the media ecosystem, we have a frequency that we operate at a particular industry category level, depending on the objective of the brand. If it's a launch, of course, the frequency is going to be on a higher side. If it's a sustenance, frequency is going to be on a lower side. And also in digital, it also depends on the audience availability. Now, for an example, if Chinmay is logging into the YouTube 10 times a day, that means I am vulnerable to ads 10 times a day. Whereas you will be logging it 1 time a day, then you will be vulnerable only 1 time a day. Of course, there are frequency control that happens, but usually at the backend level, we control the frequency. So it's not going to be that you're going to see an ad 20 times, unless it's a reservation buy where we take a 1 day property or a 3 day property where only ad that you're going to
Yeah.
see is going to be the ad that
Gone
is
are the
going to
days
run.
actually, not many advertisers I
So
see are
there are a
doing
lot of
reserve
frequency
buys.
controls that have come into
True.
digital, which
True.
actually
True.
helps you moderate your frequencies.
True. So picking up from your points, Prasad, it's like वो संस्कृत में बोलते हैं ना प्रत्यक्ष कीमा प्रमाण. It's right in front of you. उसका प्रमाण क्या दें हम? So that is where he's coming from and saying that it's easier for him to sail through the board meetings. Is it the same scenario at your end?
See, most of the BFSI brands, it's not about just viewability. They go for the ROI immediately. So the concept of just getting views for a particular campaign is not sufficient. And especially with digital, where everything can be tracked.
True.
With TV, that leeway was there that, okay, we are building the brand and it is getting viewed. People are getting aware about it. Next purchase, they'll consider us. That entire story does help. But when it comes to any digital medium, including connected TV, the measurability is available, and as it is available, the ROI automatically becomes important. So nobody will think from the perspective that whether a particular campaign has reached 30 million people. Yes, they will say yes, good number, but at the same time, the question will come: how much incremental sales revenue did we get out of it? That's why BFSI traditionally has been very heavy on performance marketing than purely brand building. Because what generally happens, the trust which a brand commands is already built.
True.
When we talk about the larger brands like HDFC or even Kotak, the brand commands that trust today. And once that trust is there, most of the other factors become quite secondary from the awareness and consideration perspective. That trust itself is the biggest factor to consider the brand. So then it comes to what kind of proposition do I have and how do I go back to the consumers with that particular proposition. So it is not much from board or the management asking for the ad दिखता है नहीं दिखता है. It's all about मिलता क्या है.
Agreed. But Prasad, having said that, the brand which you're representing today is quite a mature brand, correct? And this is basically insurance, right? Now, if you look at the consumption pattern of the product, this is basically the mature audiences, okay? So how do you think, and again, relating it to the very same point which you made was the trust. So don't you think the trust factor is already so high that working on the upper funnel will automatically lead to your mid funnel and your lower funnel, and then that's one point to it. Adding on to it, how do you mix it with the creative strategy to push the the more mature audiences towards the lower funnel from the upper funnel and finding that right connect over here? Sorry, these are a lot of questions for you.
So when we talk about, if I discuss it only from the perspective of connected TV, I would say uh, any medium, not just connected TV, any medium. Yes, the reach is important because I need to, and reach is predominantly important from the recall perspective as well. Now, life insurance is not a category where I get up in the morning and then I say, yes, today I'm going to buy life insurance. Correct? It's predominantly a push product. Everybody knows that, okay, there is a risk of mortality, there is a risk of morbidity, there is a risk of longevity, which is risk of outliving your savings. All those risks people are aware about, but taking action requires a lot of persuasion. So that's why when we talk about any life insurance product, the persuasion becomes a key thing. Even for a mature audience we talk about, and when I say mature, I don't think that age is the only factor to look at maturity. So when we talk about mature people who are really thinking about their risk and covering those risks, I'm talking to those people. I need that constant nudge and push to say, okay, today I will do this activity. Today I'll think about purchasing the life insurance. So from that particular perspective, yes, it does help. Even a connected TV kind of platform also helps. The only request what as a brand I have, that solution, the connected TV as a solution, has to become mature, more mature,
Okay.
to
Okay.
become a mainstream digital marketing instrument.
Wow.
Today, from a full funnel perspective, it's quite limited. It's more about the reach, it's more about the viewability, what you're going to get out of it. But if I need to move from connected TV to any other platform, as a consumer, I'm moving, I would like to utilize that data. I would like to have one single common platform through which I can do that particular part. Otherwise, as a just as a standalone medium, it will keep competing with a traditional linear TV as a segment. But if it has to become a mainstream segmented unit, it has to become more full funnel. That's how I look at it. And once that happens, whether it is a mature audience or even somebody who is new to the category, it can get completely used as a one particular platform to drive the viewability or reach awareness to the ROI.
So you do think that this is going to grow furthermore and can take the mainstream space?
It has to become like that, otherwise it will become any other platform. See, today brands are on connected TV because consumers are there, correct? We will always chase consumers. If consumers are going to adopt this platform more and more, yes, we will go to that particular platform. But can it become a mainstream platform where I'll shift transferring majority of my marketing budget to that particular platform? Answer today is might not.
Prasad, just one more small quick question to you about that. When you're finding that connect with your audience, are you deploying a different creative strategy also
So when
across
we
the age groups?
Yeah. So for any and every target segment we talk about, we always have a separate content strategy. Somebody who is young, we will deploy more energy into convincing them about this category, making them aware about this risk. Somebody who is having a family, having wife and kids, it's far easier to convince them about the risk because they have people who are, I would say, dependent on them.
Got it.
So
Got it.
from that particular perspective, the
Got it.
content changes. But for somebody who is 45 plus, 50 plus, they are more like wisdom investors. They
Got
do
it.
not. They
Got it.
don't need constant education nagging. They just need a good solution which can fulfill their need. So the entire focus moves
Absolutely.
towards making that solution and taking it to them.
Got it. So, picking up from that point, this is an ever-changing scenario, and Jahid, you represent a very large bank. You have such a large customer base, and you have a plethora of products. So, how easy or how difficult it is for you right now, considering your annual marketing strategies, to focus on the targeting and the retargeting aspects of it? How are you thinking about that right now?
So I think let's put it this way: a brand which is established 2 decades and more,
Yeah.
we should not focus on performance-oriented campaigns.
Okay.
Okay, that will happen in which ways. Even if you go 2 years media dark, and that's proven, your performance won't fall. Okay, so the way we are targeting, it's slightly on the, let's say, the FMCG route. Okay, people don't get up thinking of banking products. They get up thinking of passion points. Okay, bank is an enabler, right?
True.
So when we have to talk about it, okay, we have to kind of, the toma has to be there. So that when they have to do it, or when they're deciding their passion point, they think of you as an enabler. The performance part of it to an overall contribution will be hardly, let's say, not more than 2 to 3%. So instead of focusing your campaigns on a very performance oriented, I think it's good to drive toma, okay, and let that conversion happen automatically. That can happen organic, direct, branch, irrespective of channel attribution. That is one part of it. Now coming to targeting, and just to kind of this fact, a lot of people were talking about it, the way behaviors are changing.
True.
Initially, the whole aspect of baby boomers to Gen Z, test drives for car, it used to be on an average 3 to 4. Okay, and we have all bought cars, we'll know that. Guess the test drives happening today. It's 1.5. Because the entire research is happening on the digital platform. In fact, I think YouTube has become a great simulators to understand car, right? So, so this is the part that how do we, now Toma today, we don't have to target really, so the aspect is, I don't really have to do a top funnel campaign to create Toma.
Okay.
The most underutilized is mid funnel. We generally talk top funnel or performance. Now the consideration set that what are the targeting areas, be it constant harping of the audience or be it constant harping on the channels, that will help me to drive mid funnel is what I think we kind of focus on. Okay, that is not allowing me to do, because I don't need to, till the time it's a new product or new brand, maybe you'll be seeing us soon, but till the time it's a new product or new brand that's coming up, personal loan, HDFC Bank, synonymous. Much like the other banks. Credit card, HDFC Bank, synonymous. The telecallers are doing it more for us, right? So,
We all know that.
those are synonymous. I don't have to. So what we do is try to harp on the mid-funnel strategy, where we know that there is a intent for the passion point, intent for travel, intent for card should be there. And that's where we go to. And obviously CTV is playing, we have seen a lot of data. The most interesting data for CTV that I've seen is Samsung, okay, which is now approx 7 million TVs in the country.
Yeah.
Out of that, they're claiming that 40% are only on CTV and zero linear TV. Another 42% is a subset of linear TV and CTV, and remaining 12% is only on linear TV. Okay, and so we obviously cannot take a metro or tier 1 phenomena to the entire Bharat. Okay,
Yeah.
so there are people watching across, but I think that's why, given and banks are pretty much yes, there will be the segment that will give us the maximum churn. There will be a segment that will give us like there will be new guys, but we'll have to test it's inclusive banking. But yeah, so given if it's NCCS A, and so then we know that there is NCCS A, B plus, 50 million audience. There the thumb rule goes of let's say 40, 40, 20. 20% is CTV, and that's commanding, right? And the biggest advantage is the targeting that it is giving us in terms of the way I serve.
That's
Right.
true. That's true.
So that's the best part of programmatic TV, where so Chinmay was talking about frequency capping,
True.
right? Now today, how can programmatic be like CTV can be a part of the overall programmatic stack, and there I can cap the frequency, or I can cap my audience, be it first party audience. So we were the first bank to crack first party audience with one of the OH guys, okay, and where the exposure was to kind of on the relevant. So first party clubbed with the specific the channels or the events, okay, was giving us the best exposure. So that's the way we are kind of targeting and ensuring the growth in terms of our performance. Yeah.
Interesting, and I know for a fact that HDFC heavily banks on personalization as well. So, and I'm sure that mid-funnel activity is also helping to increase the overall base. So, thank you so much for that thought. Coming to Salil, with this changing scenario, across the audiences, from Gen Z to millennials and everyone, the consumption pattern is changing, is it? And the style they view the content, some of them are watching late nights. So do you see that helping in doing the advertising, and also is it also affecting the programming at an overall level, at an industry level? Do you see that happening?
Yeah, Shish. Okay, I'll say we always talk about content is the king, but in CTV it's a bit different scenario. Contest is the content, right?
Okay.
What we are watching is more from the contextual perspective than what is consuming as a content. Say, for example, if we talk about millennials or Gen Z, the consumption pattern is completely different. As a millennial, we might be consuming more of news, more of sports, which is like can be in a large ad format. But on the other hand, millennials, their consumption is much more on the shorter videos, which they can easily consume on the move, on the go, so that the time duration, what is precisely higher than we as a millennials, if we see the in the overall ecosystem. And yes, again, the restrictions can always been happen on, not the restriction, the change in behavior can always been happen in both the uh, psychographic of these audiences, like I said, because of the consumption pattern, and also these particular audiences are more from a pocket per se, right? Because millennials, they know they can afford the subscription which they want to watch as a paid consumer, versus millennials, because it's more of like a pocket money than their consumption is more from a free content services.
True, true,
So
true.
because of these changes, the patterns definitely move and change, and yes, it's there.
Got it. So, Chinmay, uh, you know, considering that, what are the unique engagement patterns here for the Gen Zs, and how are you basically driving your conversations with the advertisers here, and keeping their annual goals in mind? Uh, what kind of engagement strategies are you trying to put across them right now?
See, one of the most important point that I always keep on discussing with my brand guys is that the creative consumption or the formats that are being used by a Gen Z versus rest are
Mhm.
completely different. What happens traditionally is that there is a TVC that gets made, which gets adapted into a digital ecosystem, and then there are, of course, 6 second or 15 second cuts that gets deployed, and we run a media campaign. Gen Z particularly is a vertical video format, right?
True, true.
Everybody watches, apart from Gen Z, everybody is comfortable in the horizontal space, but Gen Z is only comfortable in the vertical video format. So most of the brands are yet to adapt to that engagement rates. Even if today I sit and tell that vertical video is something that you need to target, most of the brands will not adapt to it because there is a cost associated to adapt that horizontal video into a vertical video format. Again, because I've been working in the company which is traditionally heavy. Of course, it's digital is we are doing enough and good work on digital, but the mindset is traditional. So the TVCs or the communication that gets made is very traditional focused. So engagement point of view, unless and until you don't adapt to the vertical formats, it's going to be difficult for any brand to adapt to the communication or the lingo that Gen Zs understand. Just throwing certain stats over here, since we are talking a lot on connected TV, while the audience size on connected TV that is available in all the biddable platforms for connected TV is roughly 30%, 35% of the overall inventory. But when I look at the engagement rates in terms of VTRs or completed views, they are lesser compared to that of a millennial or a Gen X. So if I have to throw a number, say let's say hypothetically, industry benchmark is say 85% completion rate, a millennial or a Gen X would be at a 95, 97, 99% of completion,
Wow.
whereas a Gen Z would be anywhere close to 75, 78. Now, why that is happening is because this generation, I won't say it's a challenge, but focus and attention is absolutely important for them. Maybe a millennial or a Gen X might consume the entire video without doing any effort about it, but a Gen Z, if that skip button is available,
True.
those would be the first person to skip if the content is not engaging enough. So there's a lot of emphasis that needs to be given to the content from the TG point of view, but vertical format definitely is a must for if we are targeting to this generation.
Very
Just
interesting
if we
insights
can
on that.
add on to this, it's not, and it's not only about the format. It's important because what's happening is today, the big guys, the big creative guys, the storytelling is still from a horizontal format. It's not only about the format. If the storytelling is supporting something that is horizontal, shoot, 45-second ACD, okay, those kind of ACDs cannot work. Okay, so even a 30-second ACD, that's a very TV-centric plan. A 30-second ACD to match on a digital is impossible. Okay, till the time there is a reserve buy, which is also very difficult to get nowadays, right? So if I have to get a kind of the impact definition is a reach and SOV. Okay, so if you have to think of an SOD that is 20-seconder, and you don't want to compromise on the storytelling part of it, you have to start thinking from the scratch in terms of how the storytelling should be done in a vertical format. And it's not only, and as rightly said, right? Today, if you have to shoot the entire TV commercial from horizontal and vertical, the setup is different. So you have to do a different setup by itself. Okay, and not only that, the entire storytelling has to be different. So we have to think of that. The other aspect that's happening is Meta. Let's say, I'm just, I don't know if I'm take platforms names. Okay, so we still do videos, but today the consumption is very much influencer centric. I'm not talking about influencer marketing. I'm talking about influencer-centric ads. So where a guy is talking about the product and he's talking to you. It's no more of a video consumption of an ad. So that's the way the Gen Zs are moving towards ad consumption, and those things are seeing a huge uptick in terms of the CTRs that's going up. Yeah.
Also, I would like to add one very interesting point. A lot of you must have seen World Cup on Hotstar. If you have, there
Yeah,
was
the
a
max
view,
view.
max view
Max
that
view,
was enabled
absolutely.
for a lot of you guys, and that is the vertical format video consumption. And I was talking to this Hotstar guys day before yesterday, looking at the numbers because of course concurrency was highest and a lot of things were there. I was very interestingly wanted to understand how many percentage of people actually viewed content in max view, and I was surprised that about 12 to 15% consumption that happened in max view. That itself tells that vertical video is the way forward, and that is how engagement with Gen Zs is going to be very important.
So in fact, Chinmay, what you mentioned before was about the format, right? The horizontal and the vertical one. And not many advertisers are comfortable moving the formats because of the cost involved in it. But here's a traditional brand, Jahid. I saw his work recently during the Diwali campaign. It was a vertical first, so I think he took a vertical format first kind of an approach, and not the medium first approach. It was a format first approach, and that was something a very amazing work. And Jahid, picking up from that point, how do you deal with the with the creatives and the kind of ad formats? And do you see that you need to constantly change your communication, and the creators, are they getting exhausted? How do you deal with that conversation?
So yeah, and I think creative change, and that's what when it says that creative and media, they go hand in hand. It
True.
cannot be one side of it. Okay, and so brand and media will also have to go hand in hand, right? So what we do is, of course, if the entire media is 80-90% digital centric or digital heavy, okay, then you are saved, because then you can call the shots in terms of the creative that you need, right? But if it's a plan which is a complete brand launch, okay, where it's an involvement of much larger teams, there you have to really kind of put your way through in terms of the need and the requirement, okay. But the creative fatigue that you're talking about is first of all, it's not only TG, but it's platform centric creatives. What is working on YouTube vis-a-vis, and YouTube has so many inventories, vis-a-vis what is working on Meta. And we have discussed so many times that, okay, the same ad cannot work, but it's not about the same ad. It's about it's not about different formats of the same ad. It's different ads completely. So you might launch an ACD on YouTube, but the entire other channels can be a completely reminder medium with a very different set of, the brand positioning stays the same, okay, but you are telling in a very different way. You take the media rights of the influencers that you're trying to do, and then those are your actual ad inventories. Okay, so I think understanding the format of the platforms have really evolved, and that is helping us to break the clutter. And personalization used to be, but now people are very used to personalization. That's become hygiene. That's not anymore a fatigue breaker. Okay, so I think constant change of ads, and that's now for us, let's say, a 14 to 15 days, depending on the exposure that you're trying to give. And the other one is frequency capping. We are trying to cap frequency at a programmatic level to avoid overexposure. Okay, till the time it's a very interesting fact. We were trying to do a brand plotting with a reach and SOV, an attention curve. The only property that kind of did in the fourth quadrant is unfortunately IPL. So when we are talking so much of targeting, it has actually done a dampener to us, because today if I have to do a high impact campaign, there is no other property that can give us. Okay, so actually when I say it's the advantage of digital has actually turned to also be a disadvantage, because
true.
all the targeting is actually now, it's, yes, I know it's only 2 or only 3, but now if you have to launch a campaign at a high scale, not problem with the media wastage, there's nothing. Okay, so that's the give and break. Okay, yeah, but targeting with the frequency capping with the very high oriented format is something that's giving us wonders. Yeah.
So you're dealing with the ad fatigue pretty well, I guess, in that
Sorry?
case. The awareness is there. So the ad fatigue, you're basically trying to take care of that at the best
Yeah.
by multiple ad formats and reaching out through various
And take a
mediums and all.
break. And take a break in between.
Okay, so that's a lot of input from you. Parth and Prasad, considering our conversation here, um, would you like to extend any kind of inputs to the advertisers here in this room in terms of how they can think about their brands, their campaigns, and the input on the media, the frequency front, and the connect? How do they find the connect to their audiences via connected TV?
I think if I have to make through all of this discussion, I think what is coming out clearly is that, even if you talk about specific platforms in general, I think one challenge that all of us digital marketers are going to live with is how are we going to manage reach and frequency across platforms? Because
Okay.
if you talk about traditional advertising, people were used to a common measurement system given by BARC, and hence you could optimize
True.
towards that. I think that is going to be one big challenge, and that is one big issue that I see happening in a lot of media plans, that because you are now inundated with so many options, you do tick marks of different platforms in your media plan. I think one suggestion would be to go behind, or even identify platforms which are important to your major TG for a certain campaign and focus on those rather than, just adding in a few influencers or just getting in CTV at a certain spend, which doesn't help at all, because the problem is you're never going to know if your reach is say 100 on one platform. For the next platform, what is the concurrency? You're never going to get that information, right? For example, there are OTTs which support programmatic measurement. There are some OTTs which don't. The bigger ones, for example, Hotstar is just not going to give you that data, right? Or for that matter, if you kind of completely change that and go to Meta, that's a completely different ball game altogether. So I think what's important is for you to understand your consumption patterns of your TG and figure out some of the major platforms that you want to focus on and put your monies there, because in the days of digital advertising, you can do a campaign in probably 50 lakhs, and you can do the same campaign in maybe 8-10 crores as well, right? So there is no right or wrong completely. I think it's about how you decide and what platforms do you limit to drive a final impact similar to what Prasad said on the ROI front.
Interesting.
So the one thing which, even just to take what Zahid and Chinmay were mentioning, though when we talk about the younger audiences, they like the vertical format, but when they are on the connected TV, all the content they are consuming is in a horizontal format. Correct. So their preference might be a vertical format when it comes to all the digital media platforms you're talking about. But if they are consuming something on connected TV, then you have to adapt to the platform which they are consuming content on, and the entire approach changes with the platform and the segment you are targeting. So always look at both the things in conjunction rather than just looking at the segment preference. The second thing, what I believe that what adds a lot of value in connected TV is like, if I want to consume content specific to my interest, I'll consume it on my handheld device.
And that's true.
If I need to consume something which I want to watch with for family, I'll move towards a connected TV kind of a scenario. In that case, the target segment keeps changing all
Keeps
the
changing
time.
a lot.
I really don't know who is sitting in front of that connected TV and consuming the content. In that scenario, what happens? It becomes an extension to my linear TV. Correct?
Exactly.
Though whatever we say today that okay, a lot of people are cutting their cords and moving towards connected TV, the kind of reach uh, the TV as a medium offers, correct, is humongous, correct. I don't know, even if you remember how many runs somebody made in a World Cup match which happened recently, but everybody will remember कि आपके engine oil में आपका कार में कौन सा engine oil डलता है. Everybody will remember कि
Round robin.
फोन पे में पिन नहीं लगता. So everybody will remember that because that kind of reach it has given. When we talk about frequency as well, the kind of frequency these things were having on during entire World Cup was humongous. Why I remembered, and finally everybody gets influenced with it. When we talk about
Absolutely.
television, my mother never asked me, correct? तुम्हारे गाड़ी में कौन सा engine oil जाता है? But she asked me that day.
She did?
And I said, even I don't know. I never checked that, that which engine oil is finally going into my car. But when we talk about the power of this platform, either a linear TV or a connected TV, the power is huge. You can influence the influencers at home. That's the kind of power you have. It's all about how do we tackle it with the amount of data which is getting generated. That's why I said that it is still at a nascent stage. You experiment
Absolutely.
a lot. So as an advertiser, our approach is experiment, check what all data is coming out of it. We talked about the Samsung ads. They are sharing a lot of data now. They are
Absolutely,
going to
absolutely.
make the data open to other platforms as well. That will enable more usage with that experimentation. What kind of data is
I'm sure.
available?
And I think just to add on top of that, that's a very, very relevant point. I think one of the reasons why TV, of course, is one of the largest mediums in terms of reach, but is also become advertiser friendly because of the measurement system that is built around it, right?
True.
So the sampling that we have, which tells us that, you know, how many people at a given point are watching a program together, really drives the benefits of TV,
Absolutely, absolutely.
which
it does.
probably connected TV has to
Yeah.
figure out. Because one of the challenges that we do, and we're of course talking about some great things about, you know, connected TV, if we have to end it with one negative point, is that while you talk about the targeting on connected TV, I don't know if the login was of the father who has gone to office and now it's the son who's watching connected TV,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So I think connected TV still has to solve for that aspect of not just the login, but who's actually sitting in front of the screen. And is that going to be solved by, you know, sampling similar to how TV solved it, or is it going to be something else? We're not really sure. But I think, yeah, that's certainly a point that we need to take in with a pinch of salt to understand
Absolutely.
how are you measuring your connected TV reach.
I think the time is going to tell us how this is going to evolve for all of us. And most importantly, every time we meet, the scenarios are changing, it is evolving. And maybe next time when we meet up, it's going to be a different conversation altogether. I really thank each one of you here to give us your valuable insights and your time today. Thank you so much, guys.